Happy Thursday afternoon, Hoodats and Saints fans. Welcome to the show. I'm going to start off mostly just going ahead and break down the upcoming Giants game on the road in probably cold, possibly bad weather. Who knows? Northern might. He's the guy up there that would probably have a weather report for us, and apparently it's not too good from what he's posting in the comments. Um, and yeah, I perused through them just briefly just now. Northern. Um, I'll put it to you this way: if we don't win this game, then it is bleaker than bleak. Our outset, it's far worse than we imagined. Be prepared to pick an awful lot early in the draft for the next couple of years, because that really means if your talent level is below the Giants, 2-10, the only team mathematically eliminated so far in the NFC from technically eliminated from playoff contention, because apparently we still have about a 1% chance. I don't know how, but offensively, it's a bad team. I mean, there's no getting around that. They're going to put up less than 300 a game. They're 31st in the pass. They're decent in the run at 15, but they're only averaging scoring 15 points a game. Now, I know we've got issues on defense, but good Lord, they're going to roll up and throw massive amounts of points on you. There's no hope. I can tell you straight away, then that means we don't have a player on our defense worthy of being in the NFL. Drew Lock's getting the start. Nothing really to scare you there. Neighbors should scare you. Tyrone Tracy should scare you. Two rookies. They both have a lot of ability, but they're surrounded by a bunch of guys who really don't. Um, Bellinger, Manhurts, tight ends, you should be able to handle those, even though good tight ends give us a problem. They technically don't have one. Um, Slayton, Hyatt, some other guys at the receiver spot. So you kind of keep your focus on neighbors and dare those other guys to hurt them. You should be able to cover on the outside with our corners, everybody not named neighbors. So it, I mean, I will really be crushed, pissed, and ready to get rid of everybody on the team if we blow this game on Sunday. Defensively, they're pretty much run of the mill average in the NFL. They're kind of sitting right in the middle of everything. They bring some, Northern pointed out their edge players. Yeah, Thibodeau and Burns. And look, believe me, as being a long time fantasy owner of Brian Burns as an individual defensive player, I can tell you this much. He likes to take quarters, games off. He will disappear so fast, and then just as fast he'll show up and make a bunch of big plays. Kind of depends what version you get of him. I think he's mostly played on the right side that I've noticed when I've watched Giants games, but they're so putridly horrible to watch that hasn't been very many of them. Um, if Fuaga gives us a game like he gave against Verse, then not too bad of a situation there. Um, Top linebacker is Okiriki, who was on the injured list yesterday. I haven't looked today to see if their injury list came out yet or not. McFadden, the other guy they have. Um, in the backfield, Newbin, rookie. Banks, Pennick. I got some pretty good guys back there. Just be careful with the ball. If you protect the ball and don't turn over, would knock on wood, been pretty good about that offensively. You should be able to move the ball in this defense. Bugaboo is going to be, we've been able to move the ball. We moved the ball pretty decently against the Rams. We just could not freaking score points, especially in the red zone. So you better fix that problem. Otherwise, yeah, anybody's got a chance to beat you if you can't get down there and score touchdowns after, going on 15 play, 72-yard drives and coming up empty. Yeah, that'll cost you even against the Giants. But I'm hoping we've got that issue fixed. You can run the ball on them at about 145 a clip. They're about little less than 200 yards they give up passing in a game. We can run the ball. Um, really hoping Kendre Miller is healthy and ready to go, and they're going to let him touch the ball and see what he can do, and he can stay healthy throughout the game. He would be a big spark we could use right now along with Alvin. So I ain't saying this is going to be a cakewalk, but this is a game up and down on paper you should win. I don't care if it's on the road. I don't care if it's on the snow, in the snow. You should be able to run the ball in this game. It shouldn't have to go to the passing game. You should be able to get the ball in the end zone when you get it down there. I mean, it's really that simple. Everybody else has basically done that to the Giants. So I'm not I'm not bullish on this being an easy victory. I don't think there's a such thing for this team to have an easy victory unless you can just totally get a team to collapse in the fourth quarter like we did to Cleveland. But you know, you can ride the game out, play full 4 quarters, and beat a team. The Giants is one of those teams you should be able to do it to. Yeah, pretty much all I'm running on as far as the Saints and Giants. I do want to say this though about the Saints. And I don't remember exactly how many. The injury report looked kind of longish yesterday, but it seemed like there was a lot of limited practice types on there, and I think even some fulls that had an injury mention. It looks like Patrick and McCoy are going to come back, which would be an even bigger help in trying to get that running game going. But regardless, we have to start finishing games with players. I mean, and like that's really largely out of our control, but um, we're just running out of bodies, the ability to put them out there. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is I think seriously, you have to start having the conversation. Some of these guys, especially ones you know that are coming back, in, I'm thinking of Chris Olave right now as the main example of a guy. It's like probably shouldn't even be talking about them coming back at this point. If they need a surgery, let them go get the surgery. If it's rehab, recovery and rehab to get them back to where they need to be. That's a conversation I think they need to start having. And I'm bringing this up because it seems like you watch press conference with Rizzi or listen to him talk a couple over the past couple of games. And I know he can't send the message of we're throwing in the towel, but at the same time, you just kind of scratching your heads going, he'll use the phrase, we want to be smart. And that's what kind of touches it off for me because I'd be like, well, wouldn't it be smart if, look, keep sending Olave to see specialists, but let's just go ahead and say, no, those 2 concussions were too close to each other to add on to all the concussions he's had over the last few years. We're shutting him down for the season. Even if we miraculously cover the 1% and get in the playoffs, we're going to be in the playoffs without Chris Olave. I think you might have to start having that conversation about some of your other guys too. Just kind of ties into the decision of, who you're planning on bringing back next year and who you're not. And a lot of that's getting figured out right now. But if there's somebody that you are planning on bringing back, and like I said, they need a surgery or they just need to shut it down to rest and begin an off-season rehab so they're ready to go. I think those conversations need to start being had. And if you got to sit some guys down where all of a sudden our roster is depleted and you lose to the the Giants, well, it is what it is. But from what they seem to be indicating, these guys are supposed to be healthy enough to go. Well, if they go, let's hope they're healthy enough and not having the quote unquote setback somewhere in the second quarter. Uh yeah, weather, travel, don't care. It's the NFL. You got to deal with it and win. So, but I get it. But uh yeah, well, Giants have been known to not exactly block all that great up front this year either. So we'll see how that rolls out. Inability to stop the run, that might be an actual one concern that if we don't figure that out. Carr's immobility shouldn't matter because we should be able to run the ball on them a lot more effectively than we did against the Rams, and we didn't do that bad against the Rams. And the Rams actually have a much better defense than these guys have. Like I said, it's Flogging Penning's job to do their jobs, and they've played for the most part pretty well. You keep that up because I don't think you've got too much to scare you coming from their interior, and that's been where we've really had problems on our blocking issues is pressure and run stoppage coming right over center in the guard gaps. Um, we've won 4 games with those terrible tight ends. I don't even know why that's an issue, but okay. And unless the New York fans are going to suit up and they're better football players than a bunch of guys the Giants are going to be putting out on the field because you said so. I won't digest that because if Aaron Rodgers shows up as our quarterback next year, I'm done. I will not be a Saints fan anymore. If that's your solution as the Saints to win is to bring in an old, decrepit, watch him play how bad he is quarterback right now, I'm done. That's just the would be the dumbest move in the history of talk about smarter Saints. That would be the all-time Saints move forever. Belichick, look, I keep hearing that name thrown around. And if you're looking at the Saints situation right now, barring some coach with inhuman superpowers showing up here, it's going to be minimum 2, probably 3. And if our front office keeps dicking around and not getting serious about fixing things 4 more years before you're going to see a return worthy of a playoff caliber team that we're used to seeing. How much longer, even if you bring Belichick back, is he going to be around? 70, whatever he is? And anybody you want to hire right now that's going to be a good coach, you should be, of course, we're the Saints. We don't always do smart things. We do Saints things. But you should be thinking the guy's going to work out. We're going to have him for a decade or more, and we're going to be a really good football team once he, you want to Sean Payton. That's what you're shooting for. So you're hoping by the time you get to turn around and you get into the meat where that Super Bowl window is really open, and by that time, Belichick's going to be 80-ish. Now, if your plan is we know we're going to suck for 2 or 3 years, we just need a bridge coach, he might be your guy. But you better make sure he's got an OC that knows how to develop a young quarterback because pretty sure you're going that route at some point, one way or the other, whether it's one of the ones you got sitting on your team right now, or you got to go draft one or whatever's going to happen. Rodgers ain't going to help you win big games right now anymore. Not this version of Aaron Rodgers. This isn't the Aaron Rodgers that we all know and love. This is the guy that if you watch the Jets play, you go, dude, you really need to, it's time to hang him up. No, not really. That was, and I'm assuming you meant if you're talking about when they drafted the Saints drafted Davenport and his influence on it. He was a defensive back coach. So the organization was letting their defensive back coach determine whether or not we should give up 2 first-round picks to move up and take a guy that was a pure project. Hey, some of those guys are still in charge. So that's not, I mean, it's more on the people that listen to Aaron Glenn than on Aaron Glenn that happened. And even if that did happen, I'm assuming Aaron Glenn has smartened up somewhere over the almost nearly decade since that happened. So, but I doubt Aaron Glenn should be even seriously considered. And again, smarter Saints, he might be. Because you're talking about a guy who a little pumped up on first, but as I'm sitting here trying to do research, and eventually we'll get around to him, but he's a little further down the odds-on list. He's got a resume that's very comparable as the defensive Joe Brady, who I'm going, if you bring in 6, so far I'm thinking Brady's probably the 6th. He's probably one of, maybe Glenn sneaks in there at 6 and Brady moves up to 5 or whatever. Just not a lot of skins on the walls there for those guys. And not a long time in coaching because Glenn started, I don't have my notes, with Cleveland 14 and 15 as his assistant, whatever, the little internship. Was a defensive back coach, came on with the Saints as a DB coach, went to Detroit, eventually became the offensive coordinator there. So, I mean, it's a very similar path to Brady. It's not a lot of different coaching as some of the other, like when you look at Ben Johnson's resume and stuff like that. coaching at different spots along the offense, as well as some other guys have different teams. Johnson too, because I think he was about 4 different head coaches he worked under. He get a lot of different perspectives. I'm getting kind of turned off on the thought of. I mean, I get it as coordinators; they're kind of proving themselves, but I'm like, they learned enough in that time in very limited scope compared to other candidates. Have they learned enough about being a head coach? Because we're not hiring them as coordinators; we're hiring them as head coaches, and that's what we got to keep reminding ourselves. Well, and there's my reminder right now started about 20 minutes ago and going all the way through Monday, 2 p.m. Central. Uh, December discount at checkout. You're just going to get a 12% discount for hoodies, long sleeve tees like the one I'm wearing that you really can't see because that's there, and the mug, the Voodoo mug. So just to let y'all know, that's there through Monday all weekend. Go ahead, take a look. Takes 12% discount at checkout, so you shouldn't even have to do anything. Just make sure before you hit final checkout that it's showing the 12% December discount on those items. They're undefeated at home this year because I mean, apparently teams figure it out, but the yeah, and probably should expand it on that just a tad because um you might need a bridge coach because of all the issues going on with this organization. Tell you what, if I'm Johnson or uh King Kingsbury's name's coming up now, flying up the list, and Minter's flying up there. I think Phillips is a guy that's been looking pretty hot lately. All these kind of young guys. They couldn't pay me enough to come take over the Saints team right now. Not unless I got some really solid guarantees of you're going to give me more than 3 years, right? Because it's going to take you at least 2 to fix your mess that I'm inheriting when you hire me. Chicago open up. It's a, say what you want about Chicago Bears, but right now on paper, that's a better job than coming here and try to be a head coach. You got a lot of pieces in place already. You have considerably better cap situation to go try to figure out the pieces you may need if you can't draft said pieces. So, and you're still going to have a pretty good draft pick. Um, then figure out if Caleb Williams is your guy or not. That's a question mark up in the air. But I mean, hell, they fired their OC, who was supposedly the guy that was going to be the young quarterback guru, and tossed him out a couple weeks ago. So, you know, even with that, when you look at the rest of them, you're going, yeah, but you're still not dealing with all the problems the Saints are dealing with. And we don't even know if they can get rid of their overpaid quarterback. They have quarterback in the team right now. Am I going to be stuck with that guy for at least another year? So it's a tough situation all the way around. And let me tell you, you lose to the Giants, you're going to really make that job unattractive for one of the top guys you're trying to hire. So, and if you move on from Carr in some way, shape, or form before the 2025 season, then you still got to bring a quarterback in, unless you know for sure. Well, we're gonna ride or die with the 2 young guys and let them figure it out for a whole year. Which one of them is wants to start a job and see if he's going to be able to do it. But if not, then you've got to go bring in another veteran. It's an ugly situation right now. It really is. The only thing that would really salvage it, and I hate to say this out loud because I do not want to bequeath the job to Darren Rizzi, but if Rizzi wins out and you really got a crap ton of buy-in on this team and everything's, and I don't even know if I would agree with it at that point that you hire Rizzi and you, because in essence, what you're going to be doing is rolling it back at that point. Carr will be you start in 2025. There's no doubt about it. So, the way this is all tied together, of how you finish out the the end of the season, how whatever you're trying to figure out how you're going to deal with your roster slash salary issues you've got to deal with first off in 2025. Hire a head coach while you're doing it. Another thing why I'm just scared Rizzi maybe bequeath the job, they've got to be thinking when we hire a new head coach, we're cleaning out our staff. We just cleaned out our offensive staff last year. We cleaned out our defensive staff the year before that. You know, uh, unfortunately, a lot of that thinking is going to play in the ultimate decision on what they're going to do. So to bring it back around to Belichick, he may be able to bridge part of that. So you don't, he comes in, he's going to be here 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. Just try to fix the culture. Just you got a big name, hopefully some buy-in going while you're trying to do it, and you're moving players that need to go out as fast as you can, and hopefully getting some in. But and you may win during that time. He may be able to turn around, but like I'm saying, 2030, 2031, any chance he's still going to be around coaching? You kind of like to hit on this higher if you could, even if you got to give him 2 to 3 years, but I don't know. I that's a hard one. Nobody seems to be giddy with excitement on the ones coming out this year. There was, I cannot think of it's one of the sites with a paywall like the Athletic. So that's why I didn't read the article. Athletic or Bleacher Report or one of those. I don't remember who had it. Had popped up on Twitter. I think I mentioned this, but it's about a month ago or so, where whoever posted it in the link to it, one of the little descriptive blurbs he put on what the article was about. One of the little blurbs was, a lot of teams are basically putting it out there to college quarterbacks that if you don't have a minimum of like 20, 21 starts already in your back pocket and you have a year to go back, you should probably go back and start another year. I think the article was more about the NFL is developing, and I agree with this totally, are developing players less and less. They're pretty much expecting guys to come in right away, more or less, or within a year or two. And if it doesn't happen, a lot of teams, that's when they're ready to move on. That's when you see, you form a first round quarterback getting traded for a 6th round pick or whatever. Like, he wasn't ready. We're not getting him ready. We're getting rid of him. We're starting over. I'm not saying that's the winning formula or anything, but that seems to just be the mood of the NFL as they're not wasting their time on it. Um, so I don't know how many of those quarterbacks are really NFL ready. I don't know if any quarterbacks are NFL ready right now coming out of college. And that could change the class for 2026 if some of the guys they're kind of expecting on the high end of 2025 with a year left, like Nussmeier, decides to go back and play another year, then you might have what they're already thinking is a kind of watered down class compared to like last year and some previous years. It's just gotten thinner, but then that might make 2026 better. So probably going to know more once you get to the point where they all declare whether they get to the final deadline or whatever, where they're in the draft or no, they're going back to college. Probably clear a lot of that up. I haven't really followed lately, like the Heisman race, which is normally all quarterback hype for the most part right now. But the last time I really heard any type of hype on it was Hunter from Colorado and Genty from Boise State, a receiver slash corner and a running back. And been a while since we experienced that. So that alone may kind of set the tone what the feeling is about at least the 2025 draft class as it stands. Bully for him. But at the time, he was the New Orleans Saints defensive back coach. And if his significant role influenced the guys we had running the stuff instead of, I don't know, like the defensive line coach, the actual defensive coordinator, who may have been Dennis Allen. Can't remember exactly when Glenn showed up. So that's my point. Not saying he didn't do it, saying they were effing idiots for listening to him and giving up what they gave up for a guy. And even then, if they were listening to the defensive back coach to keep him around when they should have got rid of him and kept Trey Hendrickson, yeah, bad on Aaron Glenn for having that opinion. Fire everybody in the front office. Should have been fired before that, if that's true. Then the front office is really shittier than we thought, and they really all need to go because that is just completely done. If you're dumb, if you're going to let your defensive back coach influence that much and then influence to keep him around when, like we were just talking about, you're not developing, you're not doing anything, move on. And we let Hendrickson move on. So I don't really care if it's true or not as far as hiring of Aaron Glenn, because I don't think we should hire Aaron Glenn. So really and totally, this is the whole story as pertaining to Glenn's chances for the Saints. As far as I'm concerned, has nothing to do with it. All it does is make me angrier at the defensive line coach, defensive coordinator, the head coach, the scouting department, the general manager, the team president. They're the ones that really effed up, if that's true. Yep, there you go. I knew Northern would have the weather for us. Well, don't even get me rolling down that path. And that would have been the only what we gave up for Davenport. That would have been made the only sense. But again, Mickey Loomis, Jeff Ireland, they're the guys in charge of the draft. So if they let Aaron Glenn influence them, fire them now. They should go. Probably should go anyway. You know my opinion on that. But that just reinforces what goddamn idiots they were in that whole deal. So I'm not pinning the Davenport thing on Aaron Glenn. And I'm not giving him bonus props or negative props for a head coaching job because of it. But I will ding the guys in charge who they're the ones that are the shot callers. And again, I don't think Glenn, when I get to him and I can look deeper at him, would just kind of perusing where he's 3 organizations, Cleveland as basically an intern, the Saints, and Detroit, and a defensive back coach doing most of that tenure until Detroit made him defensive coordinator. They ain't just a lot of skins on that wall, regardless of whose influence he drafted or what, or whatever the story is. I don't even need to go that far before I'm going, I don't think you want to go down that path. I'm well aware when Davenport and all that was gone. So yes, Sean, the only one I can't remember if DA was there yet or not, but because I can't remember which draft that was, but I think he was, but it doesn't matter. They all effed up bad, horribly bad. And if you want to start lining up people and flogging them publicly for the Glenn is way at the end of that line, way at the end. He's up there without a doubt. Loomis is at the front of the line. Sorry. I know he's your boy and all, and you love him, but nah. No. No. Looks like we're having a short one today, unless Northern wants to keep coming back with his Aaron Glenn is the bane of all existence as far as Marcus Davenport issue. But like I said, just generally speaking, though, to wrap it up, Davenport, now you got me stuck on Davenport, man. God, I don't even want to talk about that guy anymore. It's like Beetlejuice. I'm afraid if you say his name 3 times in a row, he's going to show back up on your roster. The really nut and bolts of it is maybe outside the Raiders, this is the last team God, I can't believe I'm going to say this because their coach is Brian Daboll, for Christ's sakes, but you outcoach him. You have the better quarterback. You have the better offensive line. You have the better running back. Overall, you have the better the better offense. Their defense better than ours, without a doubt. But if you can't figure out how to stop a running back and a wide receiver with no quarterback to run the offense, you're cooked. You're done. This team never had a shot. They were all horribly wrong about what this team could do. So, my prediction to score: the Saints are going to score more points than the Giants, and they should. I mean, this isn't so much about predicting the outcome. This is more about if you can't beat a team like that. I mean, it's going to be a hopeless situation moving forward. Because where do you go from there? You've used about every excuse in the books for some of your previous losses. The last 2-10 or 2-win team you played, I mean, you let them hang around for 3 quarters, but you ended up rolling them. Yeah, everybody's gonna be like, "Well, we don't have Taysom Hill." Well, look, I love Taysom, but any one player against like when you play good teams like the Rams, yeah, when you miss him, but when you play teams like this, you should be able to line up. Good Lord, I mean, it all the external factors when you're the better team, just show up and play better football. I mean, I guess that's what I'm really trying to say. We should be able to do that. And if we don't, then it's a on us issue more than it's a magical trip to the to Giant Stadium type issue. Um, they lose this game. I'm telling you, I'm going ballistic Sunday. It's going to be bad. Get ready. So, oh no, Northern. I'm look. Just we. I'll go back as hard as you come at me. We know how what the deal is, but yeah. Um, the man, you keep you now. God, now when I see you type something in, I'm expecting, and I'm not going to say the name again because I swear Beetlejuice 3 times he'll show back up on the roster. But so yeah, I got to clear my head out of that one. But yeah, I confidently, I'd like to see us get our legs back under us in this game, win the thing, and then see what it looks like when you have the test of going to Green Bay. Now, there's a road team against basically a much better team than you are, especially right now. Because, well, I don't know though, because I think they lost a couple of their young receivers because they had that young receiver thing going with Reed and Dobbs. I think Dobbs is the one concussed or something. I don't know if he's playing this week, but the veteran running game with Jacobs, better coaching with LaFleur. So in a lot of ways, they are the team we don't want to face because they can run the ball. They've got a pretty solid quarterback as long as he doesn't get himself in trouble throwing picks. It's a good young receiving core as a group, not like the team we're about ready to play that's kind of relying more or less on one guy, maybe two if they can get Wan'Dale Robinson involved in the passing game. Um, so I this one should win. The test of a lot of the stuff Northern Storm to me happens when we roll up against Green Bay and Lambeau. So, and I think Rizzi's had 3 games, home games in a row. Kind of heartbreaker. One got away. It's going to have the road game test coming up. I think he's got 3 left, if I remember right. I think only the Commanders and the Raiders are in the dome. So if he wants to make that mark on the resume, um, of yeah, I'm even if we don't hire him and somebody else, because then he's going to be moving on and somebody be interested in somebody else's job. These are the games he can't let get away. You know, this road game, first road game against a team that's not as good as you are. You tarnish the hell out of your resume, not only with the team you're trying to get the job with, but also anybody looking over your shoulder going, yeah, you just can't let that happen. Not at this point. So no, um, I feel like and you can go back and look at the video I did on Foskey. The way they were talking about him, the way he was speaking and playing with confidence in OTAs and minicamp. said, okay, maybe our second round pick turned a corner and we're really going to have that second round pick edge that we need. And he was given the chance to do it and didn't do it. So, um, I mean, nothing against the guy personally. I'm sure he seems like a hell of a nice guy, but he's all but disappeared. I mean, even worse than last year, because at least last year they were, talking about him being injured and stuff. I hadn't even heard that about him. I've seen him on special teams, but I don't even know. I don't know if he's even gotten on the field the last couple of weeks. I honestly don't remember seeing him anywhere. So, um, I'd like to be a fan. I'd like, if things really go south, um, or not even south, because I don't think it's going to take much to take that 1% of making the playoffs away from us. I think you might just have to throw them to the wolves out there, one final time. And kid, this is it. Get out there and get after people and make some plays, or that's that. I mean, but no, I mean, just as a fan of our second round pick, just not seeing 55 anywhere on defense, doing any amount of time of a game. Not a fan of that at all. Yeah. Excuse me. Tickle in the throat there. I've heard that from a lot of season ticket holders. And the thing about Ms. Gale listening to the pulse of the fans, and look, little peon podcasters like me and everybody else that were just losing our minds every chance we got over that, probably like to think we had a strong influence. And I guess maybe we had some in some way, shape, or form. I think she might have been listening to a lot of season ticket holders who were going, come on. Uh, you know, that's it. We're done. We're. And so she might want to keep paying attention to that too when it comes time to making the decisions they're gonna have to make come 30 seconds after the week 18 game ends. Unless miraculously we manage to make the playoffs. Yeah, somebody I have not been following the draft, because some people are tracking it like religiously every week where the Saints are on the draft order. But I'll see it every now and then. I think we're still top 10. I thought I saw somebody said even the way it worked out last weekend, we didn't really move. So 9. Does that sound right? But we were not like anywhere in danger of getting in the teens. But it might have been Underhill and Triplet, I think, were at some point. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was them. We're kind of talking about it, and we're like, considering how the rest of the schedule is going to play out and who some of the teams are, like Cleveland's floating around us. We have a heads up win against them. So, as they said, it's going to kind of work itself out. And I think we're going to wind up with a top 10 pick without trying to have a top 10 pick. But, you know, um, who's down there? I'm trying to remember who the top 3 are, but I think they're all 2-win teams, including the Giants. And so I don't think you're getting in front of a whole bunch of those guys. So hell, I didn't even think about that. The Giants have got to be sitting there going, we don't want to win this game either. Cause, they actually, if there is a top a quarterback coming out this year, they could parlay themselves into having a shot at getting him. So I think Vrabel, and I'm kind of saving him a little bit. Also, he's down the list a little bit because look, I kind of been piecing some information, but like only really have a couple deep dives done. I think we're going to do Johnson and might do them together. Johnson and Kingsbury might have that one out this weekend or early next week. Um, so it's kind of like skimming it, but all along, that's just an interesting name, and he may be the one guy that um, kind of checks a lot of the boxes, except for if you want like that hot offensive coordinator type guy, which means he's got to hire one. or keep, and this is why I think it's interesting, or keep a lot of the current offensive staff in place, which the Saints ownership and front office might like and go, okay, we don't have to clean them all out again. We may keep some or all of the existing. You, that shouldn't be crossing your mind as an organization, I don't think, when you're trying to hire your new head coach. But again, the Saints do things in their own interesting way. But um, also, if and I would say this, if you would hire somebody like Vrabel who would come in and say, look, the coaching staff and enough pieces are in place. We're not that far away on offense. We need to do this, this, and this over the next 2 or 3 years, and we'll be fine. Then I guess it makes a little more sense. So I think he's an interesting one. I really have to dive deeper into both of them. But like gut feeling is, I think you're exactly right. If it came down, that was the only two. Let's say they're the only two guys willing to take the job. I think the smart hire is definitely Vrabel, and he may be further up that list than anybody's really thinking right now, because I think he could be a real dark horse candidate for the job. Um, no, head coaching prediction. No, look, universally, it's the Saints hate change, right? So again, as far as bequeathing the job to Rizzi, if he runs the table, even the Rams is the only blemish. As close the game was, and you kind of had a chance to win it in a weird sort of way. Definitely a chance to tie it and see what happens after that in overtime. Um, I could see him extending him and making him the bridge coach. Let's see if he can figure it out in that 2 3 year span. And if not, then the wrecking ball comes in. So, but either way you do that, um, bringing Rizzy back or Vrabel or even Glenn, you're not hiring the hot, sexy name that everybody wants. And something tells me somebody in the organization is going to be pushing for that. So, well, everybody wants to win the game, or they should. Otherwise, you don't need them out there. But there's always there we're and I don't know if you could really do it this point in the season, but you might be able to with a couple roster moves. We're tanking, but not really tanking. You, some of those years you can look around front offices and going suddenly like release a veteran, you know, so we can start the rookie that hasn't played all year in his spot and ends up costing you a game and stuff. Going, the organization's like, look, he wasn't coming back next year anyway. We just bumped him this year and played the guy we know that wasn't very good to fill out the last 2 games, and the other teams took. I mean, that crap's happened, but and you really can't say that that's what they were doing. They might have just been saying, we know the veteran's leaving next year. Let's just move on from him now. Let the rookie play, get his 2 games in, and we can decide what we do from there. But part of you also wants to say, front office, was definitely making some moves to go, yeah, I got a hard time winning with that guy and a couple of other ones on the field the way it stands right now. So he's interesting, but he's going to have to wait till we know a little more what's happening. Um, only because of the salary situation sitting on him. Because he's scheduled to make 10 mil next year if you keep him on the roster, and not even sure what point of the season. You'd like to think he's going to pull his normal Taysom and he'll be back like months ahead of schedule whenever he's got an injury. You just don't know. So that one's going to be interesting, but I think that's going to be a conversation that they're going to start having probably February or March, trying to figure some stuff out there. What's happening, Scott? I didn't know they released him. But yeah, somebody would have picked him up. That's a tight veteran guy. But I guess we figure rolling mean, you can roll MVS and Austin Jr. I think probably really your two top guys. Um, Wilson, Pettis is up. I don't know if Pettis is getting a whole lot of snaps on offense, but I know he's sneaking some out there here and there. He's kind of a guy when he is on the field. Your defense, you got to keep your eye on him. So, yeah, probably being the fifth receiver set at that point. Um, yeah, interesting one. Oh, but I got to think about that. It might have been he had to clear. Was he waived where he had to clear waivers? Because Jacksonville is definitely in front of us on waivers. They might have just grabbed them before we had the chance. Sometimes I don't understand how some players are waived. There's some an out and out cut. The way the NFL does it. So, but yeah, if he was a free cut, that's where everybody had a shot at him and not having to go through waivers. That would have been an interesting ad by the Saints, and probably not for very much money. I'm assuming that was the Taysom player coach. Yeah, I got to revisit that on that plan seed because that may solve your Taysom roster if you could somehow. Of course, the NFL would probably go ape shit if you could figure out how to do this. But take that 10 million and that's his coach. That's his coach's salary, and we're only paying him $1,000 as his player's salary or some craziness like that. I'm sure they wouldn't allow it, but um, I don't know, Northern. That's setting me down a path going, man. Kai Harley may have to start and the lawyers may have to start going through all kind of rules and how the salary cap works to see if that's feasible. Because I mean, hell, Rizzi had to hire shit. Rizzi had to hire somebody to be the special teams coach. Well, not really, but the advisor or whatever the guy they brought in to help him out because obviously his head coach, he's got more stuff to do there. It might be a player coach job for Taysom right there, and he's played enough special teams in his career to probably be able to coach it pretty decently. Yeah, if I'm in the front office, I'm thinking hard about it. When we cut wide receivers, why did Sean want him? See if he's better than what you got on the field right now. Because and Reynolds, um, I mean, he's in the same mix of receivers we're dredging up right now. I mean, not necessarily anything overly special, but can make some plays for you. Um, Detroit last year before, he had a pretty decent season in the Johnson scheme with and I say decent as a 3 and 4 receiver because that's what he is. But he could put up some numbers, and that Johnson system would go off. Might have been the same year they had Jamal Williams, but I'm not 100% positive. But in the Rams age bracket, Taysom's like it is almost his own age bracket there because he is a 30. I mean, we have 35-year-old like linebackers. You got 35-year-old quarterbacks. You have. Does anybody have a 35-year-old kick returner, punt returner, quarterback, fullback, tailback, tight end? Am I missing anything? Uh, he hasn't done it lately, but gunner on the punt team, personal protector on the punt team. I think that's what he does mostly now. Like, just even his age is a class by itself because he's the only 35-year-old. My lord, if they can't figure out a way to put him in the Hall of Fame, that's going to be the thing that might just chap my ass the most about the NFL. What's up, Big V? Yeah, everybody knows Josh Reynolds. If they've been paying attention, he's been around long enough. I mean, he's just one of those guys. I mean, one of those guys. Yeah. Although I think they're going to want to put Bub Memes. It sounds like he's getting close to coming back. I think they're going to want to put him on the field and give him a long run in these last games, which probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Yeah, I'm consoling myself though in the Big V in the case of um I just don't want to look like a shitbag team. I mean, I don't want to lay down, at all. Even kind of like we were doing at times, and especially towards the end of that 7-game losing streak, because I'm just worried about the culture deteriorating even worse and so far down. Because then it's going to take that much longer to fix, and that has to be fixed. It has to be fixed. That well was poisoned for too long. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. But like the Rams game, I even made the comment on Twitter when somebody said that, responded to somebody, quote tweeting Cam after in the press conference when they asked him what's the mood of the locker room, pissed, and I'm like, yeah, it's Saints fans too right now, but it's mostly because just that pissivity of, man, we had a shot to win the game, just get that pass off and get it somewhere near Johnson. The guy fell down, hopefully catches it, hopefully Groupie makes the extra point, let's see what happens. But it didn't. It's not like the normal that situation happens, and that pistivity is lingering in me for hours, possibly days. Um, in the case of the Nola no call, months, years. That was like, after a little while, you start kind of taking that attitude, going, "Look, this was a really long ask we were asking," and console yourself into thinking, well, we're still in pretty good draft position, and hopefully this keeps reinforcing the point to the higher ups, going, this is no longer a situation where we think we add one or two, three key pieces and we're going to turn the whole thing around. Now, y'all going to have to do some work in the offseason, and the moves, that's the salary cap moves, and then what you can get. Which I don't know what it's going to be, but you're going to be moving on for some players and having to bring some back some kind of way with probably not a lot of room to do it with. So I do too. And so much, I don't know how to put this because I really don't. It's hard to put your head around. I think Rizzi's comment was on Miller a couple of days ago is, I don't have a doghouse or something like that on something they asked about Miller. And there's been, and Miller even said some stuff that he and Allen maybe, I don't know. I don't get it. But at the same time, and that he wasn't as hurt as bad as everybody thought, and he shouldn't have been on IR. He felt like he could have went after a week or two. Um, and then thinking back to Rizzi's press conference when he um, first took the job that Monday morning, and he spoke to the press, and one of the things he mentioned is making changes on who's active and not active on game day. And I don't remember if he mentioned anything about IR or anything, but just kind of alluding to some roster issues that they didn't agree with. And right off the bat, we know one of them was MVS because he finally gets elevated. And Austin Jr., they get elevated and, you know, been pretty good since they've been moved up. Um, and watching one of the games, I don't remember if it was Atlanta. It had to have been Atlanta because I was at Cleveland. And one of the announcers mentioned, there was like, yeah, a group of players apparently were talking to the announcers, going, "Oh yeah, we knew that they should have been on that. We were asking, bring them up." And then Coach Rizzi did this for. So could he have been playing the last couple of weeks? Could he have been on the field? I'm really, because once they IR'd him, he had to wait that certain period of time and open the window and all. And I'm sitting here going, is this some of the stuff that Rizzi was alluding to? Because I want to see what he can do with little flashes when he's been healthy and been on the field. The Atlanta game last year, uh, which was what game he got hurt with Sandy Chargers, I believe, game. Couple nice runs. One got called back because of a penalty. These little flashes, and you're looking at him and going, especially in this offense we're running now, because he does look like he's the type of running back that can run in that. So I want to see that. I really, really do. And I think You have a guy, it's his second year, so he'll be going his third year when you're trying to rebuild and you've got money issues and all. If you can get this guy into what you thought he was when you drafted him onto the field, he's a guy that can help you turn the corner a lot faster to get out of the hole that we all know we're heading into. So I want to see him stay healthy on the field and really, really show that flash um, over those 5 games and not just like the one game last year and a play here and a play there that we've seen in the last 2 years. Well, so's theirs then. Is he 35? 36? I know he's in his 30s, but I didn't realize or I thought it was like 38, 39. Like he was about ready to join the old man's club. But yeah. Uh, I mean, speaking of which, Brady is younger. Um, I think 33. Sound about right? Somewhere around there. And I'm not sure about some of these other young hotshot coaches that are floating around, but there may be one or two more that could strike up the conversation, maybe not this year and in the coming years, that are kind of in that group. Um, and the only reason why I know that keeps coming up because I just did Brady's thing the other day, and I never looked at his age to be honest with you. So I'm trying to think because they keep talking about it when they're talking about him getting one of the coaching jobs that's going to open up or had that's already opened up is his age because he's like 33, 34 or whatever, and just so young and a few hits. Yeah, I get it. Like a McVay. I mean, you got him around for a while, and as long as he doesn't, you know, totally fall apart as a coach, if you get a guy in that young that's pretty good 8, 9, 10 years, you probably thinking you're going to get at least half more of that and beyond. So sometimes Groupie does that by himself, but he's actually had a pretty good year this year. The last I saw on Twitter, he was supposed to go see a specialist, and I think that got postponed a week. So if that was last week, maybe this week, or I saw it this week, and it may be next week. But other than that, it's they're talking like hey, if he can come back, we'll bring him back type thing. But I think that's like go see the specialist by all means. Go see as many doctors as you need to on this. You want to make sure everything is 100% a-okay before you think about doing anything. But at the point we're at is even if we overcome the magical 1% odd to make the playoffs, I think you're looking at a very deep Super Bowl run once you get there. I would just rather him not do any type of activity that may risk another concussion or a setback, even if it isn't a concussion or anything. Just pun intended, just let him get his head right. Okay. 100% correct. And then we'll go from there and figure out when he should get back on the field. He needs to start playing regardless. Um, Carr Carr's not your long-term answer, regardless if he gets 2025 or not. So you let Rattler go 3 games, especially if you've got Patrick and McCoy back solid and they're going to be there. And if Carr doesn't like it, too damn bad. But they're going to have to get Rattler. And to be honest with you, um, if you take another loss this season, somewhere down the stretch, you might have to rethink that into we're not going with an emergency third quarterback. All 3 of them are going to be in the game day roster, and you know, or Carr might be the emergency quarterback, and we're going to let Rattler and Hayner handle it, however you want to do it. And this isn't about figuring out which one of them is going to be your starter next year if you move on for Carr or whatever. No, this is about getting both of them as much live action, NFL game speed experience as humanly possible before you start that journey into Um, okay, can one of these guys eventually be our quarterback of the future, or is he going to be a bridge quarterback for us? Look, Raiders example. That's basically what Aiden O'Connell was for him when they sat down Carr because they didn't want him injured because of the big injury guarantee he had on his contract before they palmed them off on us. Um, and I think it was very quick when they had O'Connell in there. They figured out real quick, not a long term future. But until we get our quarterback and we've got to roll somebody out there, and then they sign Minshaw too, and just going, yeah, that's what we're going to roll with right now until we can find the quarterback. So at the very least, if that's the route you end up having to go, you're going to want it with those two guys anyway. Um, I feel like this much though, if I would put Vrabel quite honestly in the same category and Rizzi as in this, the my way or the highway type guys. And sometimes now some players just can't handle that, and those are the ones they're gonna end up making an example of and move on out. Think a lot of the coaches of that ilk have shown that very early in their tenures to set a tone. But I also think there's guys out there that when you set boundaries and rules and make them follow it, they'll do it. But when you don't, you know, they may not be, let's just say, self motivated or self disciplined enough to do all that themselves. But a guy like Rizzi or Vrabel or Belichick it used to be like that. I don't know if he still is. Man, I watch him on the Mannings on Monday night. He just seems like a big old grandpa teddy bear. So I don't know if he's a hard ass he used to be or not. But where those guys can just pull them in and get them, in line with what needs to be done, where everybody's pulling in the same direction, and you know, so I don't think he's going to put up with stuff from anyone on that. Going, no, this is our decision. This is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to do. If you don't like it, tell us now. We can find you a new place. Pff, telling you, you keep saying that name, he's going to show up on the roster, and then I'm gonna blame you, Northern. Where is that name familiar from? I recognize it, and I'm assuming you're talking about a college player. Because I just read something on him. Um, Possible first round pick or something. I don't remember. Yeah, you killing me. I'm gonna have to go back and find that now, Big V. Um, but yeah, and I mean like in the last few days, and I know like I haven't done a huge deep dive in what's coming up out of college. If I'm thinking the same guy you're referring to, Arizona State, maybe something like that. Um, I haven't gotten that far yet. That'll actually probably need to start doing that soon because that seems like it's going to be pretty important to this team, to the Saints, and we probably going to wind up with a shot at getting a pretty good one. So I he's just look. I mean, what it really boils down to is his contract, which paid him, and what it's going to cost you to move him. I think he's more. Um, Not more. I think it's a little better for our cap if we trade him as opposed to cut him outright before June 1st. Um, and if you can move him, it makes a lot of other decisions easier. Because he just ties up so much of it and he's got the huge dead money hit along with it. And that's got to be in the back of my mind that when you're trying to hire a coach, but you can't work that out and you end up having to give him 2025 so you can then cut him in 2026 because I don't think we're going to pay him 50 million in 2026. And um, if I'm a head coach, that's like a Ben Johnson coming in. I'm going, that could be a deal breaker. Like, no, you know, no, he's not playing. I mean, he can be on the team. He can be our third quarterback or whatever. If, so and again, if they want to be holding because they don't want to drop the hammer on him in 2025 to try to massage the cap one more year, do whatever they're doing. That could be a Rizzi type move also. They go, oh, just keep Rizzi because Rizzi might keep him as a starting quarterback. Yeah, they've I have no idea what he's doing. They yeah, they've been needing to pull the trigger on that for a while. And when they do it, it can't be half-ass, you know. It's gotta be with a plan. Is he starting year one? Well, then in which case, going back to Big V's point, you got to move on from Core and get him out. And then you got to build your whole plan, especially in that first year, around the fact you're starting one of the rookie or young quarterbacks, even if it's a second year guy, and build your development plan around that and move it accordingly as he moves. Yeah, buddy, Patrick Mahomes sat for a year behind Alex freaking Smith of all people in Kansas City. But Andy Reid had a plan how he wanted to work that whole deal, and I think it's worked out. Um, I think other teams are starting to do that. I think Chicago tried; it just didn't work out. But I think Washington, Houston did that last year, kind of put them in a position where, not saying they were going to succeed to the point where those teams are going to make the Super Bowl or anything, but succeed to the point where you're just not throwing them to the wolves and letting them get run over by NFL defenses and defensive coordinators scheming them out of their minds. Like I think some of that did happen against some of the games Chicago played. So I, I we need to fix that problem. We need to keep trying to find that young quarterback with the plan to make it work. And sooner the better, you know. And again, they may be underselling that quarterback class coming out in the draft. There may be some guys, you know, you could get if we're picking 7, 8, 9, 6, wherever we are. Maybe, like the Bo Nix type guy that everybody thought was like, and then you have a plan, you develop your scheme and your offense around it and develop him during the year. There's another one I forgot that, Denver's done it with Nick. So I think you got to be on the lookout for that. And it's got to be part of your decision making process coming out of 2024 going into 2025. To me, just the cap issue on how you get him out without, I mean, you could cut him straight up and he saves you exactly $1 million. So our estimated 62 million goes to 61 because you just got so much, not only the dead money tied into him, but he's on the books for 21, 31 million next year. Some of that guaranteed. So you're going to be cutting him a check and handing it to him at the same time. Because I think 2025 is the last year of any in a guaranteed money on his contract. But so that all plays into it. But to me, that's look, and I forget where it breaks out, but I think if you trade him um before June 1st, you might instead of $1 million in cap savings, it might be like 5 or 6, I think. I looked at it just the other day, but it's higher than 1 million. And I'm sitting there going, I would take a 7th round pick for him to save that money and move on and really send the message, which you were just talking about. We're going to get a head coach and we're going to try to figure out our quarterback issue, hopefully with a young one that we can develop into a good quarterback that's going to become an elite quarterback that's going to put us back into where we want to be. I don't know how to take that because Jameis is Jameis is Jameson in Clint in Wentz. Jameis is Jameson in Cleveland because like the other night, 2 pick sixes. I mean, he threw 6 touchdown passes in that game, 4 to Cleveland receivers and 2 to Denver defensive players. And that last one, the third pick he threw to Barton, Barton was trying. I mean, at the point he just could have nailed it, but he was like, I'm trying to go get number 3. And he was trying to house that thing. I think he was in the end zone or almost in the end zone when he intercepted it. But I mean, he is the guy that can just it is a roller coaster. Sometimes literally from play to play where he can dime a pass to Judy for a long touchdown and then throw pick six to the defensive end edge player Benito who houses it. So it's just I think the big debate the other night that I saw was that and people were trying to argue this, and I'm like, I would not argue this point. Going, well, look, we don't know how good he really is, or could be, or isn't, or blah blah blah, because they're going back and forth and all this. But somebody's like, but he's the most exciting quarterback to watch in football, and I'm like, oh, that's absolutely true. Is you just don't know what's going to happen anytime he throws the ball, but you have the very high possibility of a long touchdown pass to Judy, or a pick six, or some kind of craziness in between. Oh no, it's like, yeah, he is. And for the brief period we had him, um, Sean kept him basically under wraps. So there wasn't a whole lot of that excitement. He wasn't making the huge ton big plays, but he wasn't making the big plays for the other team either. So, but yeah, Cleveland's definitely letting Jameis be Jameis. Taysom was if Taysom would have been a full time quarterback his whole life in the quarterback room, he'd have probably been a great one. Not making a part time player a full time quarterback halfway through and again, his 4-game stint he started in 2020. It was too Tim Tebow ish, what it reminded me of. It was just not the ability if you want him back there 25 times a game trying to make throws. I think he does neither. He's there. The ultimate outcome for him is when he's playing efficiently and just moving the chains and hate to say game management because people think that's such a dirty phrase. I'm like, no, that's how the dude's going to help you win games. That it's okay. I think that's where he's best, where he can every now and then he can thread a big time throw, but at the same time, look, the end of that game Sunday says volumes. So I mean, all intents and purposes, that was a playoff game. You both teams had to win that game to keep their hopes alive, basically. And so you're it's kind of a playoff type atmosphere, playoff type pressure. You got to get that ball off on fourth down on the last play. You have to. And what if y'all watching Chicago and Detroit on Thanksgiving Day? It's the same exact thing with Caleb Williams. On that whole scenario playing, I know they had a timeout and their coach should have called it, and he should have been fired sooner than he was. But at some point, the quarterback has to just, if you want him to be that guy, that's got to go. Hey, I need the ball and I got to throw it. We're running out of time, or I'm in the pocket. And I've heard anywhere from 3.9 to 4.1 seconds before verse got to him. It's plenty enough time to get the ball out and look. And in that case, if you have to force it in there and somebody picks it, I mean, who gives a shit? It's fourth down. It's the last play of the game, you know. But in that case, you had a guy breaking open. Got to get the ball on him. So I think he's just kind of there, and you hope he does more good things than bad things. But you want to just kind of manage the game. Try to be efficient. Try to be effective. That sort of thing. Um, I gotta wonder if he isn't. I'm starting to slowly develop this theory of 13 busts. I think that's what I'm going to call it. And the three that come to mind, I'd have to go back. I was one day kind of diddling around and I found some more, but the three are Geno Smith, first round bust with the Jets. Had at least one other, possibly two. I don't know where he was, kind of a backup thing floating around the league. Shows up in Seattle. Yeah. I don't know if he's going to ever win a Super Bowl for him, but he's a pretty decent quarterback and can play really well at times. But it night and day above what he showed when the Jets were trying to make him a starter. Baker Mayfield, same thing. Now he got helped out a whole lot, I think, tremendously in between Cleveland and Tampa. And I think he had a drop off in Carolina in there somewhere. But one of the teams he did stop off at was the Rams with Sean McVay and got to play in there in a little bit. And to this day, I'm thinking, I wonder if that kind of got the things clicking in his head. And you're seeing, again, I don't know if you're ever going to win a Super Bowl with him, but night and day better than what he looked in Cleveland and playing pretty good football right now. Sam Darnold's toying with being the next one right now. So if that's a thing, um, Fields is coming off a pretty decent start with Pittsburgh while he was filling in for Russell Wilson. We would be his third team. Might be worth putting that theory to the test. Plus, you probably get him pretty cheap. And you think getting with a healthy Shaheed and Olave next year with a quarterback like him with his mobility, a good offensive coordinator. Again, I don't know if he's going to take you to the Super Bowl, but I think you could make some stuff work. So I'm not opposed to it, I guess, but just don't give him a huge contract and realize what you're getting with him is that you're probably going to want him to run it as much as he throws it. Really, yeah. But he was that was the run up in that was Miami too with the super speed show, but that was the whole um, part of the burning it down before he built it back up phase because he basically kind of burned it to the ground last year. And so far, the early returns definitely are on the build back up going on over there. I think they definitely had a plan on how they wanted to do it. Play defense and get the quarterback, develop it, scheme it, and they're going to start adding pieces to it, and they have the cap space and all to do it now. So they can really make some moves coming out of this season. I'd like to see us do something similar like that. Yeah, I mean, true because um because even and this is going back to again, in I won one of my championships in that dynasty league with Winston during his 5,000 yard, 32 TD, 30 pick season. I mean, like, Jesus Christ, man! He was throwing up some huge monster numbers in there for me in some games, and I'm like, "Phew," you know. Um, and so I'd watch quite a few, and I think that was the Tampa Bay experience with him during those years that they really got the full, you know, even he could throw up fantasy football numbers, but if you watch the game, it was just an ugly experience. They walk out on a win, or I don't remember what year it was, but I do remember he threw, I think, three pick sixes in the first half, and they were down three scores, and he rallied them back into the fourth quarter. They ended up losing a close game, but rallied them back in the fourth quarter. Like went off for something like 290 and four touchdown passes in the second, or some crazy crap like that. It's like it was definitely would have been one of the exciting losses. Although if you're a Tampa Bay fan, you're probably pissed that they came up short. Going, really, dude? Yeah, I don't. He still rambles a little bit, but not like he wants to. Yeah, but I think he learned the wisdom of not doing that in his later years. Especially to the point where when he beat Denver, I think Craig Mortensen was Denver's starting quarterback in the Super Bowl. I don't I don't know what to think on that. I really, really don't. And it could be in the wording too, because there is always a possibility he retains some job with the club, just not in his current capacity. So he could have the title of GM, so to speak, but somebody else with a new title is actually doing most of the duties or whatever. So I'm interested because I think a lot hinges on this decision, and if he stays in that capacity and he doesn't recognize drastic changes are needed, and they've got to start doing some things differently, we're going to be stuck in the same old, and we've got to get out of that rut soon. Who was I having this conversation with? Oh, a buddy of mine the other day because we were talking about it. We kind of had the same thing, and it's been Young a lot this year, and then Granderson a couple of times lately. Um, but God, when they get a pressure, just get the guy on the ground. If they could just they can get Sunday. Ended up being an incompletion because Young got so close but it could have been a replay. Of the last play on us when first just kind of came in and swatted the ball out. I mean, he was right there. And it's like, dude, just close, hit the arm, hit the ball, forced fumble right there would have been awesome. So I'm hoping to see one of them start finishing, closing, whatever you want to call it, when they do get some pressure, going, man, get the guy on the ground. Um, I'd like to see him return because last year was pretty good at it. So I'd love to see him get back in that mode because you kind of paid him and set him up as like one of your cornerstones on the edge. So really do want to see that start coming back. Yeah, no, I don't think 100 and something year old guys coming back. Don't care. Still got to go beat him. Yeah, but he's still not very good. You don't get to be the third string quarterback behind Daniel Jones and Tommy Cutlets if you have a ton of ability, Northern. Sorry. Now, I ain't to say he can't light a fire and kick our ass because we've seen worse quarterbacks than him do it to us, but it still doesn't make him good because he ain't. Dang, thought it was going to be a short one, but we ran it running long. So, um, and starting to lose my voice here a little bit anyway. So, yeah, it's breaking it all down the way I see it, right? Um, do want to thank everybody for hanging out and showing up. Even I know some of y'all had to were at work and had to come in a little late. Um, I don't do predictions, Northern. You know that. Um, God darn it. Hang on. There we go. Um, come in and hanging out. So I'm kind of liking these Thursday afternoons because we get some pretty good stuff going here. Um, still working on some of the coaches video stuff. So I'll just kind of keep pumping those out regularly when I can. Um, and also Sunday night we'll be doing the post game. So make sure you got your notification hits. Check back because I'll be posting Saturday the time frame, but probably still in our somewhere between 8 and 9 central time frame, kind of depending on how everything works out. So and hopefully I don't have to show up with a migraine with a vein bulging on my head because we didn't go in and beat the Giants. And then I got to listen to Northern. I told you so for an hour and 15 minutes. Because don't front Northern, you would do it. Um, so the that's the kind of the schedule for the rest of the week. And again, thank y'all all for joining. Don't forget, we've got the December 12% discount in the merch shop pinned up on the link. Hoodies, long sleeve tees, and the mug. And till I see you, like I said, probably see a video between now and Sunday, but definitely Sunday night when I see y'all. I'm Tim. Peace out and who dat.